Welcome back. A British tobacco company says cigarettes can be safer. And next year, the company hopes to launch a cigarette it says cuts the risk of smoking-related diseases by up to 90%. Here to talk about whether that's a good idea, Patrick Reynolds. He's the grandson of tobacco company founder R.J. Reynolds and an opponent of the tobacco industry and smoking. Mr. Reynolds, thanks a lot for coming on.
Glad to be on board.
So we don't know if this cigarette works from BAT, the British tobacco company, but there's no reason to think it might not kind of work. I mean, tobacco companies famously have a lot of control over what's in their product. There are a lot of chemists on staff. Why couldn't they figure out a cigarette that's less harmful?
The tobacco industry is in the job of selling cigarettes and selling a product.
Sure.
And they want their customers to go on using it.
And to go on living, though, because dying smokers don't help the tobacco industry. People who get emphysema and lung cancer hurt the tobacco industry. So they have every incentive to figure out a cigarette that delivers the nicotine, but that doesn't cause these illnesses. Why isn't that a good thing?
Understood. We don't know if it's a good thing. It takes about 25 or 30 years on average to get the lung cancer and heart disease that smoking causes. So we won't have reliable data for at least 30 years on whether this thing works or not. And honestly, you know, so maybe it's like jumping out of the 15th floor instead of jumping out of the 20th floor to smoke these cigarettes.
But here's what we do know. We know a couple things. One, we know that people keep smoking almost no matter what the evidence is. People know smoking is terrible for you in every way, and they keep doing it. It makes you dumber. I mean, we could talk for an hour about all the bad things that smoking does to you, but they keep smoking. Yeah. So you're always going to have people who smoke. We also know that, 160,000 people die of lung cancer in this country every year. So why aren't we declaring a war not just on smoking, but on the carcinogens in cigarettes? Why don't we have some massive federal program devoted to making a safer cigarette? That's such an obvious choice, and I don't know why it hasn't been made so far. Do you?
Well, the point is that smokers are going to keep smoking. A lot of them are going to keep. I was a smoker, and I smoked for, 17 years. And they want to keep smokers smoking. Now, if they think that there's a safer cigarette out there, maybe I can go on smoking, many of them may be thinking. But we don't know how safe it is. That's the problem with this. And, sure, fine to take some of the carcinogens out, but smoke going into your lungs, burnt particles in the air, is probably a problem here. And we won't have any reliable data on this new cigarette for decades to come.
But I'm just kind of surprised by the response from anti-smokers. I mean, I understand why people are against smoking, absolutely, because it kills so many Americans. On the other hand, you'd think anti-smoking groups would be thrilled by this news. You'd also think those same groups, your group among them, will be pushing for more funding for lung cancer. Here you have every lung cancer death in this country gets about $1,700 in funding for lung cancer per death. AIDS, $163,000 per AIDS death. This was last year's numbers. Per AIDS death. Now, I'm not saying AIDS funding should be cut. I'm really saying, shouldn't there be a movement led by people like you to fund lung cancer research so we can stop all these deaths?
Well, I think there is a movement to fund lung cancer research, of course, but to make a cigarette, no. I don't think that that's necessarily appropriate to help a corporation make a product on which it's going to make billions every year. Tucker, around the world today, 1 out of every 3 adults living on the planet smoke.
Right.
Now, we have a 1 in 5 smoking rate, or give or take, but in Japan, in Asia, in China, when you average those in, 1 in 3 adults on the planet are addicted to tobacco. Almost all of them started as children, as teenagers.
Right.
And now, to get them to stop is practically impossible. And this is a product which, when used as directed, causes mass death. We expect that of the 1/3 of the world's population now addicted to tobacco, 40% of them are going to die from smoking. That means that 9% of the entire world population is going to die because they smoke, and most of them
I absolutely believe that that's true. And if you could cut the carcinogens in cigarettes by even a small percentage, you could save millions of lives. That is great news, and I hope it's true.
So to encourage people to go on to smoke a so-called safer cigarette it's just inappropriate. Helps these companies continue selling their deadly products, making money. We don't know, Tucker, how much safer it really is.
All right, Patrick Reynolds, thanks a lot for joining us.